The metal corridor smelled like fear and old oil. Taemin walked slowly through the lower deck of the ship, his boots making soft sounds on the floor. Around him, other human soldiers sat on benches or leaned against the walls. Some cleaned their weapons. Others stared at nothing. Nobody talked much. Taemin kept his face empty of emotion. He had practiced this look for many years. It was important that nobody saw what he was thinking. Not the other humans. Not the aliens who ran this ship. Nobody. He found Jiwoo sitting near the weapon racks. She was checking her rifle for the third time that hour. Her movements were precise and careful. She did not look up when Taemin sat down next to her, but she spoke quietly. "They are sending us to die again," she said. "Yes," Taemin replied. He did not see any point in lying about it. Jiwoo finally looked at him. Her eyes were hard and cold. "How long will we keep pretending?" "Until we are told to stop," Taemin said. "You know the rules." She nodded and went back to checking her weapon. They had been through this conversation before. They would probably have it again. Across the room, a young soldier named Sang-ho was talking to his friends. His voice was louder than it should be in a room full of people preparing to die. Taemin listened without seeming to listen. "This is our chance," Sang-ho was saying. "If we fight well today, they will see that humans are strong. They will respect us." Taemin almost felt sorry for him. The boy still believed that respect could be earned by dying bravely. He did not understand that the aliens who commanded this ship did not care about bravery. They cared about numbers. Human soldiers were cheap and easy to replace. The intercom crackled to life. A rough voice spoke in the alien language, then switched to human words. "All human troops report to the briefing room immediately." The soldiers stood up slowly. Taemin could see the resignation in their faces. They knew what was coming. Another suicide mission. Another chance to be thrown at the enemy like ammunition. The briefing room was too small for all of them. Human soldiers packed in shoulder to shoulder while the alien commander, Vrextal, stood on a platform above them. His scales gleamed under the harsh lights. His eyes, cold and yellow, looked down at the humans like they were insects. "Humans," Vrextal said. His voice dripped with contempt. "You will deploy to the surface of Kelvar colony. The enemy has taken the mining facilities. You will establish a defensive position and hold it." Someone in the crowd asked, "For how long, sir?" Vrextal's mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile on a human. On him it looked like a threat. "Until you are dead. Or until we decide you have bought us enough time. Whichever comes first." Angry whispers spread through the room. Taemin stood perfectly still, watching the commander. This was normal. The aliens always used humans as shields. They did not hide it anymore. Vrextal continued. "The Varak forces outnumber you 20-1. They are better armed, better trained, more experienced." He paused. "But you are humans, are you not? I am told your species is very compassionate, very emotional. Perhaps you will cry at them until they surrender." Some of the alien officers behind Vrextal made hissing sounds. It took Taemin a moment to realize they were laughing. Sang-ho stepped forward. His face was red with anger. "Sir, we deserve better than—" "You deserve nothing," Vrextal snapped. "You are here because the coalition needs bodies to throw at the enemy. That is your purpose. That is your value. Do you understand?" Before Sang-ho could respond, Captain Hyun-soo, the human battalion commander, grabbed the young soldier's shoulder. "Stand down, Private," he said quietly. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. "Now." Sang-ho looked at the captain, then at Taemin, then back at the floor. He stepped back into the crowd. Captain Hyun-soo faced Vrextal and saluted. "Understood, Commander. We will complete the mission." Vrextal waved a clawed hand dismissively. "See that you do. Dismissed." The humans filed out of the briefing room in silence. Taemin noticed Captain Hyun-soo watching him. Their eyes met for just a moment. The captain gave the smallest nod. Taemin nodded back. Something passed between them, a message that needed no words. 2 hours later, Taemin was strapped into a drop pod with 20 other soldiers. The pod shook and rattled as it fell through the atmosphere. Around him, soldiers prayed or cursed or sat in silence. Jiwoo sat across from him, her eyes closed, her breathing slow and steady. The pod hit the ground hard. The door exploded outward and Taemin ran into smoke and fire. Kelvar colony was burning. The sky was dark with ash. In the distance, he could hear weapons firing and people screaming. The Varak enemy was waiting for them. They were bigger than humans, covered in thick armor plates. Their weapons were heavy and powerful. They moved forward in tight formations, professional and efficient. Taemin's unit took cover behind the ruins of a building. Around them, other human squads did the same. They fired at the enemy using the tactics they had been taught by the coalition. Standard defensive positions, overlapping fields of fire. Everything by the book. It was not enough. The Varric kept coming. Human soldiers fell. The defensive line bent, then broke in places. Taemin watched it happen with cold calculation. They were losing. They had always been meant to lose. His radio crackled. Captain Hyunsu's voice came through, coded and brief. Ghost protocol. Authorization granted. Taemin felt something shift inside him. The mask he had worn for so long began to crack. He looked at Jiwoo. She had heard the message too. She looked back at him and smiled. It was not a nice smile. Finally, she said. Taemin reached up and unsealed his helmet. This was against regulations. Soldiers were supposed to keep their helmets on at all times in combat, but regulations did not matter anymore. He pulled the helmet off and let it fall to the ground. The air smelled like burning plastic and blood. He took a deep breath and looked out at the enemy forces advancing toward their position. For the first time in years, Taemin allowed himself to smile. It was the smile of a predator who had been pretending to be prey for far too long. He switched his radio to the open channel so everyone could hear. His voice was soft and cold. All units, this is Lieutenant Taemin. New orders. Stop fighting like they taught us. Start fighting like we were trained. He looked at Jiwoo. Let's show them what Earth really sent. Around them, other soldiers were removing their helmets. Taemin could see the change in their faces. The fear was gone. The resignation was gone. What remained was something the aliens had never seen from humans before. What remained was hunger. The change happened fast. One moment, the human soldiers were fighting like they had been taught. The next moment, they were different. They moved differently. They thought differently. They killed differently. Taemin led his squad into the ruins of the colony. The buildings were broken and burning, full of shadows and hiding places. Perfect for what they needed to do. Split up, he ordered. Groups of 3. Use the ruins. Make them afraid. The soldiers disappeared into the darkness like ghosts. They knew how to do this. They had trained for years in secret, learning the old ways of human warfare. Ways that the coalition thought were too brutal, too savage, too human. Jiwoo climbed to the top of a broken tower. From there, she could see the whole battlefield. She set up her rifle carefully, making no sound. Then she waited. Patience was something she had learned a long time ago. Patience was how you killed from far away. A Varric officer walked into view, giving orders to his troops. Jiwoo watched him through her scope. She counted his breaths. She measured the wind. Then she fired once. The officer fell. His soldiers looked around in confusion. They could not see where the shot came from. Jiwoo was already moving, finding a new position. She would fire from there next. Then move again, always moving, never staying still long enough to be found. On the ground, Taemin set traps in the streets. Simple things. Wires stretched across doorways. Explosives hidden under rubble. The Varric were strong and well-armed, but they fought in straight lines. They expected their enemies to do the same. They did not understand fighting that came from everywhere and nowhere at once. A Varric patrol entered a building. Taemin waited until they were all inside. Then he triggered the explosives. The building collapsed, burying them. He was already gone before the dust settled. Sang-ho was with a team securing a side street when he saw what Taemin had become. The lieutenant moved through the shadows like death itself. He killed 3 Varric soldiers before they even knew he was there. His knife was silent. His movements were smooth and practiced. Is this what we are? Sang-ho whispered to the soldier next to him. The other soldier, an older man with scars on his face, nodded. This is what we were always supposed to be. This is why Earth created us. Sang-ho felt sick, but he also felt something else. Relief. They were not losing anymore. For the first time since the battle started, they were winning. The Varric commander, General Kroth, watched his forces die from his command post. He did not understand what was happening. His soldiers were vanishing. Entire patrols would enter the ruins and never come back. The ones who did come back were terrified. What is happening down there? He demanded. One of his officers looked at the reports. The humans, sir. They stopped fighting like coalition soldiers. They are using different tactics, ambushes, traps. Psychological warfare. Psychological warfare? Croth repeated. What do you mean? The officer hesitated. They are leaving messages, sir, written in our language, warnings, and they are leaving our dead in specific patterns. They want us to be afraid. Croth felt something he had not felt in a long time. Fear. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be easy to kill, but these humans were not weak. They were something else entirely. On the Coalition command ship, Commander Vrextal was having the same realization. He watched the battle data with growing shock. Human casualties had stopped. Instead, it was the Varric who were dying. What are they doing? He asked Captain Hyun-soo. The human captain stood calmly, his hands behind his back. They are doing what you asked them to do, Commander. They are fighting. This is not how Coalition soldiers fight, Vrextal said. No, Hyun-soo agreed. This is how human soldiers fight. When we are allowed to. The Draxian commander stared at him. You have been hiding this. All of you, yes. Hyun-soo's voice was flat. You thought we were weak because we showed restraint. You thought compassion meant we could not fight. You were wrong. What are they? Vrextal demanded. What did Earth send to the Coalition? Hyun-soo walked to the window and looked down at the planet below. Earth sent the same thing it has always created when threatened. Warriors. The kind that other species do not make because they do not need to. You see, Commander, humans evolved differently. We fought each other for thousands of years. We learned how to kill in ways that would make your species sick. And when we finally stopped fighting ourselves, we did not forget how. We just hid it. Why? Why hide it? Because we wanted to be accepted. We wanted to join the Coalition as equals, not as monsters. So we showed you the parts of ourselves that were peaceful. We hid the parts that were not. Hyun-soo turned to face Vrextal. But you kept treating us as expendable. You kept throwing us at the enemy like we did not matter. So we stopped hiding. Vrextal said nothing. He just watched the battle data and tried to understand what it meant. On the surface, Taemin was planning his next move. The Varric had pulled back, concentrating their forces in a few defended positions. They were scared now. Good. Fear made people make mistakes. We hit their command post tonight, he told Jiwoo and the other squad leaders. Fast and quiet. No survivors. What about prisoners? Someone asked. For information? Taemin shook his head. We do not need information. We need to send a message. The message is simple. Fighting humans is not worth the cost. They moved through the darkness like shadows. 12 humans against a fortified position holding 200 Varric soldiers. By the rules of war, it was impossible. But human war had different rules. Taemin led them through a drainage tunnel that led under the Varric defenses. They came up inside the command post in the place the enemy least expected. Then they went to work. It was not a battle. It was an execution. The humans moved from room to room, killing in silence. The Varric had no time to react, no time to organize a defense. In 15 minutes, it was over. General Croth died last. He faced Taemin in his command center, his weapon drawn. But his hands were shaking. What are you? The general asked. Human, Taemin said simply. Then he pulled the trigger. Afterward, Taemin stood in the command center and activated the recording system. He knew the Varric fleet would be watching. He wanted them to see. This is Lieutenant Taemin of Earth, he said calmly. Your commander is dead. Your forces on the ground are defeated. You came to Kelvar thinking humans were weak. You were wrong. We are not weak. We are careful. There is a difference. He paused, making sure the camera captured his face clearly. You wanted a war. Now you will learn why Earth mastered it. Why humans spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other. Why we are very, very good at it. The broadcast ended. Taemin walked out of the command center, leaving the dead behind. Jiwoo was waiting outside. Did you mean it? She asked. About us being careful? Yes. Taemin looked up at the sky where the Varric fleet waited in orbit. We choose to be peaceful, but when someone forces our hand, they learn what we really are, and what we really are is terrifying. Across the colony, human soldiers were regrouping. The battle for the surface was over. They had won, but this was just the beginning. The Varric fleet would respond, and when they did, they would discover that removing the mask was only the first step. The real demonstration of human warfare was still to come. The news spread through the coalition like fire. Humans had won a battle they were supposed to lose, more than won it. They had destroyed the enemy completely, and they had done it in ways that shocked even the oldest warrior species. On Thalaxis Prime, the capital world of the Coalition, the High Council gathered in emergency session. Representatives from 20 different species filled the Great Hall. They were all watching the same video. The video that Taemin had broadcast from the Varric Command Center. Ambassador Kyung-soo stood in the center of the hall. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had been representing Earth for 15 years. In all that time, she had never once raised her voice. She did not need to. Her words carried their own weight. "The council demands an explanation," said the council leader, a tall crystalline being named Thexran. "You have deceived us." "We did not deceive you," Kyung-soo replied. "We simply did not tell you everything. There is a difference. You hid the fact that your species is capable of this." Thexran gestured at the frozen image on the screen, Taemin's face calm and cold. "This brutality," Kyung-soo nodded slowly. "Yes, we hid it. Would you have accepted us into the Coalition if you knew?" Silence fell over the hall. Every representative knew the answer. No, they would not have. Humanity would have been seen as a threat, not a potential ally. "You asked why we hid our warriors," Kyung-soo continued. "I will tell you. Humans have been at war with each other since before we had written language. We invented new ways to kill almost every generation. Chemical weapons, nuclear bombs, biological warfare. We nearly destroyed our own planet 3 times. She walked slowly around the hall, meeting the eyes of each representative. When we finally achieved peace, it was not because we forgot how to fight. It was because we chose to stop. We learned that our greatest enemy was ourselves. So we made a decision. We would hide our capacity for violence. We would show the galaxy our peaceful side. We would try to be better than our history. A Draxian representative stood up. "But you lied to us. You pretended to be weak." "We did not pretend to be weak," Kyung-soo said firmly. "We showed restraint." "That is not the same thing. A warrior who chooses not to fight is not weak." "They are wise." Thexran spoke again. His voice was quieter now, thoughtful. "You hid your warriors because you were afraid of how we would see you." "Yes." Kyung-soo met his crystalline gaze. "We wanted to be welcomed, not feared. We wanted friends, not enemies. So we hid the parts of ourselves that might make you afraid, and now?" Another representative asked. "Now that we have seen what you truly are, now you must make a choice." Kyung-soo spread her hands. "You can see us as monsters and cast us out. Or you can understand that we are allies who have been holding back. The choice is yours." The debate that followed lasted hours. Some species called for Earth to be expelled from the Coalition. They argued that humanity was too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable. Others argued that humanity had only revealed themselves because they were forced to, that they had chosen restraint for years, which proved their good intentions. On the command ship Eternal Vigil, Commander Vrextal was having his own crisis of understanding.
He had watched the battle footage a dozen times.
Each time he saw something new, some tactic or strategy that made his scales crawl with fear. Captain Hyun-soo found him in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "You knew," Vrextal said without turning around. "All this time you knew what your soldiers were capable of." "Yes." Hyun-soo stood beside him. "I was one of them once. Before I became a commander, before I learned to wear the mask." The Draxian finally looked at him. "How many of you are there? How many of these Shadow Corps soldiers?" "Enough." Hyun-soo's voice was quiet. "Earth created the program decades ago. We train soldiers in every method of warfare our species has ever developed. Guerrilla tactics, psychological operations, cyber warfare, assassination, everything." "Why?" Vrextal demanded. "Why create such warriors if you wanted peace?" "Because we knew peace was fragile." Hyun-soo turned to face him. "We hoped we would never need them. But we knew that hope was not a strategy. So we prepared. We created soldiers who could fight wars that other species cannot even imagine. And we kept them hidden in case the day came when we needed them." Vrextal was quiet for a long moment. "I treated your people like cannon fodder, like they were worth nothing." "Yes, you did. I was wrong." Hyun-soo nodded. "Yes, you were. But you are not alone. Most of the Coalition made the same mistake. You saw our compassion and thought it meant we were weak. You did not understand that choosing mercy is harder than choosing violence. It takes more strength." On the surface of Kelvar, Sang-ho sat with a group of other soldiers around a fire. They were cleaning their weapons and eating rations. Nobody spoke much. They were all processing what they had become. Sang-ho finally broke the silence. Are we the bad guys now? An older soldier named Wu Jin looked at him. He had been in the Shadow Corps for 20 years. His face was scarred and his eyes were tired. There are no good guys or bad guys in war, Wu Jin said. There are only survivors and the dead. We chose to survive. But what we did, Sang Ho pressed. The things we did to those Varric soldiers, that was not honorable. No, Wu Jin agreed. It was not. But it was effective. And when someone is trying to kill you, effectiveness matters more than honor. Taemin approached the fire. He had been talking to command. The soldiers looked up at him, waiting. Reinforcements are coming, he said. More Shadow Corps units. The Varric are sending their fleet. They want revenge for what we did. Jiwoo smiled grimly. Let them come. Taemin nodded. They will. And when they do, we will show them something they have never seen before. Human warfare at its finest. Not just on the ground. In space too, what do you mean? Sang Ho asked. Taemin sat down by the fire. Earth has more secrets. The Shadow Corps is just one program. There are others. Ships, technology. Weapons that the Coalition has never seen. We kept them all hidden. But not anymore. Back in the council chambers, the vote was being taken. Should humanity remain in the Coalition? Should they be granted full military autonomy? Or should they be expelled as too dangerous? Dexeran stood to give his vote. He had been thinking about this moment for hours. I have lived for 300 years, he said. In that time I have seen many species join the Coalition. But I have never seen a species like humanity. They frighten me. Their capacity for violence is unlike anything we have encountered. He paused. But I have also never seen a species that chose peace despite that capacity. Humans could have conquered this galaxy. With their warriors, with their weapons, they could have taken whatever they wanted. But they did not. They asked to join us as equals. They hid their strength to avoid frightening us. Vexran looked around the hall. That restraint is more impressive than their violence. A species that can destroy but chooses not to is more valuable than a species that simply cannot. I vote that humanity remains in the Coalition, but with conditions. They must share their knowledge. They must help us defend ourselves. And they must never hide from us again. When the vote was counted, humanity was allowed to stay. Barely. But they would have to prove themselves worthy of the trust. Ambassador Kyung-soo accepted the terms. She knew it was the best they could hope for, but far away in the darkness between stars, the Varric fleet was coming. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of soldiers. They were coming to destroy the humans once and for all. They did not know what was waiting for them. The Varric fleet arrived in the Kelvar system like a storm. 300 warships filled the space above the colony. Their weapons could level cities. Their shields could withstand anything the Coalition had ever thrown at them. They were confident. They were powerful. They were ready to make the humans pay for what they had done. Admiral Cross commanded the fleet from his flagship. He looked down at the human positions on the planet and smiled. This would be easy. The humans had nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. All ships, he ordered. Prepare to bombard the surface. Erase the human positions completely. But before his weapons could fire, something appeared on the scanners. Ships. Dozens of them. Coming from the asteroid field on the edge of the system. They moved fast, faster than any Coalition vessel. And they were heading straight for the Varric fleet. What are those? Cross demanded. His sensor officer looked terrified. Unknown design, Admiral. They are not in our database. They appear to be automated. No life signs detected. Automated warships. Cross felt his confidence waver. The Coalition banned automated warships years ago. They were considered too dangerous. The Ghost Fleet had arrived. Earth's secret weapon. Ships with no crews. No fear, no hesitation. Just cold, calculating artificial intelligence designed by human military engineers. They moved like a pack of wolves, coordinating perfectly, targeting weak points in the Varric formation. The first Varric ship died in seconds. The ghost ships swarmed it, their weapons cutting through shields and armor. Then they moved to the next target. And the next! The Varric fleet tried to fight back, but the ghost ships were too fast, too unpredictable. Inside the Coalition command ship, Vrextal watched in horror. What have they done? He whispered. Captain Hyun-soo stood beside him, calm as always. They have unleashed the Ghost Fleet. Another secret we kept hidden. Earth built these ships in case we ever needed them. We needed them. On the surface, Lieutenant Minho sat in a dark room filled with computers. His fingers moved across keyboards faster than most people could see. He was part of the Cyber Warfare Division. His job was to break the enemy from the inside. "I am in their communications network," he reported. "Uploading the virus now." The virus spread through the Varric fleet like a disease. Ship systems began to malfunction. Weapons fired at the wrong targets. Navigation computers gave false readings. Ships collided with each other. The perfect Varric formation collapsed into chaos. Admiral Cross watched his fleet tear itself apart and felt true fear for the first time in his long career. "How are they doing this?" he shouted. His communications officer looked up from his console. "Admiral, I am receiving a transmission from the human forces. It is being broadcast on all channels. Put it through." Taemin's face appeared on every screen in the Varric fleet. He looked calm, almost bored. "Admiral Cross," he said, "my name is Lieutenant Taemin. I wanted you to understand what is happening to you before it is over. You came here thinking you would destroy us, but you made a mistake. You assumed that because we are new to space warfare, we are not good at it. That was wrong." He paused. "Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We learned how to fight in every environment: land, sea, air, and now space. We learned how to use technology as a weapon, how to turn your own systems against you, how to make you afraid." Another Varric ship exploded on the screen behind him. Taemin did not look away from the camera. "Right now your fleet is dying, your communications are compromised, your weapons are malfunctioning, and our automated ships are hunting yours like predators." He leaned closer. "You wanted to teach us a lesson. Instead, you have learned one. Never, ever underestimate humanity." The transmission ended. Cross sat in his command chair, frozen. Around him, his ship shook as human weapons found their mark. On Kelvar, Sergeant Yoon-ji was doing her part. She was a demolitions expert, and she had spent the last 2 days turning the asteroid field near the planet into a minefield. The Varric fleet had positioned themselves right in the middle of it, detonating charges in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Space lit up with explosions. Asteroids broke apart, sending debris flying into the Varric ships. Some ships were destroyed instantly. Others were damaged, their shields failing. The perfect tactical position had become a death trap. Ji-woo watched from the planet's surface through her scope. She could not help but smile. Humans were very good at turning the environment into a weapon. It was something they had learned during centuries of fighting each other. "Beautiful," she said. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the Varric fleet was in ruins. More than half their ships were destroyed. The rest were damaged and fleeing. The Ghost Fleet pursued them, making sure they understood that running would not save them. Admiral Cross tried to retreat, but Taemin had one more demonstration planned. The human forces did not destroy his flagship. Instead, they disabled it, cut its engines, destroyed its weapons, left it floating helpless in space. Then, the Ghost Fleet herded it toward Coalition space like sheepdogs herding a wolf. Taemin broadcast one final message to both the Varric and the Coalition. "This is what humanity offers: victory, complete and total victory. We do not just win battles, we dominate them. We take your strength and turn it into weakness. We take your confidence and turn it into fear. This is what we have been hiding. This is what we are capable of when we stop holding back." He looked directly into the camera. "To the Coalition, I say this. You have seen what we can do. Now you must decide. Do you want us as your warriors, or as your enemies? The choice is yours. But make no mistake, we are not weak. We have never been weak. We have only been patient." On the Coalition command ship, Vrextal could not speak. He just stared at the screen showing the destruction of the Varric fleet. "They did all this in 3 hours, he finally said. 3 hours. Yes. Captain Hyun-soo nodded. "That is what happens when you give human warriors a real fight. We do not just participate in war. We excel at it. It is written into our history, into our DNA." Sang-ho stood with his squad watching the remains of the Varric fleet burn in orbit. He felt strange, proud but also scared. Scared of what his species was capable of. Scared of what they had become. "Are we monsters?" he asked Woo-jin again. The older soldier thought for a moment. "No, we are survivors, and sometimes survival requires doing monstrous things. The question is not whether we are monsters. The question is whether we can live with what we have done. Can you?" Woo-jin looked up at the burning ships. I do not know. But I know we did what was necessary, and that will have to be enough. Taman gathered his officers for a final briefing. They stood in the ruins of the colony, surrounded by the evidence of their victory. The coalition will want answers, he said. They will want to know everything. Every weapon, every tactic, every secret we have been keeping. Will we tell them? Jiwoo asked, some of it. Taman looked at each of them. We will share enough to prove we are valuable allies, but not everything. A warrior who reveals all their secrets is a warrior who dies. We will keep some mysteries, some surprises, just in case. In the distance, transport ships were arriving. Reinforcements from Earth, medical teams, engineers to rebuild the colony, and more Shadow Corps soldiers in case they were needed. The mask had been removed. Humanity's true face had been revealed. There was no going back now. The galaxy would have to accept what humans were or reject them entirely. Either way, humanity would survive. That was what they were best at. 3 months after the battle, Taman stood in the same briefing room where Commander Vrextal had once mocked human weakness. But everything was different now. The room was full of representatives from a dozen coalition species. They were not there to give orders. They were there to learn. Taman wore his uniform but no helmet. He would never wear a helmet again unless necessary. The mask was gone. There was no point in hiding anymore. Today we will discuss asymmetric warfare, he said to the assembled officers. How to fight an enemy that is stronger than you. How to turn their strength into weakness. This is something humans learned a very long time ago. The alien officers listened carefully. They took notes. They asked questions. They treated Taman with respect. Some of them were afraid of him. He could see it in their eyes. But they respected him. After the briefing, Commander Vrextal approached him. Lieutenant, he said. Or should I say Colonel? I heard about your promotion. Colonel is correct. Taman nodded. Though I am still getting used to it, you deserve it. Vrextal hesitated, then continued. I came to apologize. For how I treated you and your soldiers. I thought you were weak. I was wrong. I was a fool. Taman looked at the Draxian for a long moment. Yes, you were, but you learned. That is what matters. I will never make that mistake again. Vrextal straightened, mistaking restraint for weakness good, because humanity will continue to show restraint. We do not want to be the monsters of this galaxy, but if someone forces our hand, they will discover what we are capable of, and by then it will be too late. On Earth, Sang-Ho walked through the streets of Seoul. He had been given leave after the battle. Time to go home. Time to remember who he was before he became a soldier. But it was hard. He kept thinking about the things he had seen, the things he had done, the Varric soldiers he had killed. War changed people. He knew that now. He decided to write about it. To tell people what really happened out there, not the official story. The truth. People needed to understand what their soldiers went through, what they had to become to keep humanity safe. His book would be called The Price of Peace. It would tell the story of ordinary humans who had to become extraordinary killers, and how they lived with that afterward. Jiwoo stayed in the military. She was good at what she did. Too good to stop. They made her an instructor at the Shadow Corps training facility. She would teach the next generation of warriors how to fight, how to survive, how to win. She stood before a class of young recruits. They looked at her with a mixture of fear and admiration. She had become a legend after Kelvar. You are here because Earth needs warriors, she told them. Not soldiers, warriors. There is a difference. A soldier follows orders. A warrior understands why those orders matter. A warrior accepts the burden of what we do. She paced in front of them. What we do is not glorious. It is necessary. We hurt people. We kill people. We do terrible things so that others do not have to. That is our purpose. If you cannot accept that, leave now. No one will think less of you. No one left. They all stayed. They wanted to be what she was, strong, capable, deadly. Captain Hyan-Soo retired from military service. He had spent enough time carrying weapons. Now he worked as Earth's military liaison to the Coalition. His job was to teach the aliens about human warfare, but more importantly to make sure humanity's capabilities were used wisely. He gave speeches to Coalition military academies. He advised generals. He helped write new tactical doctrines that combined human aggression with alien technology. It was important work. Work that could save countless lives, But sometimes, late at night, he thought about the soldiers he had commanded. The ones who had died before Ghost Protocol was authorized. The ones who could have lived if they had been allowed to fight properly from the beginning. Those thoughts kept him awake. Ambassador Kyung-soo continued her work at the Coalition Council. It was harder now. Some species still did not trust humanity. They saw the victory at Kelvar as proof that humans were dangerous, that they should be watched carefully, but others saw it differently. They saw humanity as valuable allies, as warriors who could protect the Coalition from threats that peaceful species could not handle alone. The vote to allow humanity full military autonomy passed. Barely. But it passed. Earth would be allowed to maintain its own military programs, its own weapons, its own secrets. In exchange, they would help defend the Coalition. It was a fair deal. Both sides knew it. The Varric Dominion sued for peace 6 months after their defeat. They had lost too many ships, too many soldiers. Their pride was broken. They signed a treaty promising to never attack Coalition space again. The treaty included a specific clause. They would never attack human forces, ever, under any circumstances. The Varric had learned their lesson well. 1 year after the battle, Taman returned to Kelvar. The colony had been rebuilt. It was beautiful now, clean and new. You could barely tell there had been a war there. He walked through the streets alone, remembering. This was where everything had changed, where humanity had stopped pretending, where the mask had finally fallen. Jiwoo found him standing on a hill overlooking the colony. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Showing them what we are?" Taman thought about the question for a long time. No, we could not keep pretending forever. They needed to know. And now they do. Are we still human? After everything we did? Yes. He turned to look at her. Being human means having the capacity for both creation and destruction, both compassion and violence, both peace and war. We are not monsters. We are people who made hard choices to survive. That is the most human thing there is. They stood together and watched the sunset. In the distance, human and alien soldiers trained together, learning from each other, building something new. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed. But some things remained the same. Humans were still warriors, still survivors, still willing to do whatever was necessary to protect those they cared about. The mask was gone. It would never come back. Humanity would face the galaxy as they truly were, not as they pretended to be, and if that frightened some species, so be it. Fear could be the beginning of respect, and respect was the foundation of true peace. Taemin received a message on his communicator. Another mission. Another threat. The Coalition needed the Shadow Corps again. He read the message and nodded slowly. "Duty calls," he said. Jiwoo smiled. Like always, like always. They walked down the hill together. Behind them, the sun set over Kelvar, the place where humanity had revealed its true face to the galaxy, the place where the Reaper had removed his mask. The battle had never really ended. It had only paused. There would be other battles, other enemies, other times when humanity would need to show what they were capable of. But now the galaxy knew. Humanity was not weak. They were not soft. They were warriors who had chosen peace. And when peace failed, they knew exactly what to do. They would win, whatever the cost, because that was what humans did best. They survived.